Hi everyone, it's Victoria. Try to do with glasses off today. So I'm here to talk about some cool stuff. Trying to come to you guys every day a little bit. Small, short videos about good old psychotherapy, counseling, life coaching topics. And today I wanted to talk about the difference between guilt. And if you know, do you know the difference between guilt and regret? And that's something I encounter a lot in the office. And I wanted to see if some people want to do some engaging about this. But if you encounter a lot of guilt, I always challenge people who come in with the feelings of guilt as a way of coping with their emotions or things that they feel they've done. Or sometimes guilt will show up for no good reason. It's just a family culture concept that is in your being, and you just sort of autopilot go to guilt. And guilt is a very destructive emotion. I think that there's a really amazing concept called regret. Regret is a equally self-analyzing emotion, but not as destructive, which I find kind of interesting. But guilt is a sort of down the rabbit hole kind of death spiral way of thinking that I would say is quite negative and quite useless in many ways. I feel like when we're talking about events that say make sense to feel badly about, well, I mean, have at it. Let's have you start to feel a sense of, man, I shouldn't have done that. That was not a good thing to do. But I would really encourage people to go down a way of thinking about the event or the thing in a regret-oriented way of thinking versus a guilt way of thinking. So guilt, I feel, is almost like paralysis. It brings on the blame-shame game. It brings on a lot of feeling badly about yourself. But I feel on the other side, regret, the two live on a continuum, but on opposite sides of a continuum. And I believe the regret piece is much more positive, because you can start to say, well, what did I learn from that thing that I did? It's not as shame oriented. It's more, wow, I wish I hadn't have done that, or I wish that this was different. And then you start to go about the business of analyzing it in a much more positive way. And also giving yourself an opportunity to experience a sort of a taking of inventory, shall we say, about the event or yourself. And then you start to go, okay, what can I do differently? What did I learn here? What's the opportunity in this? What will who will I speak to, because I need to maybe get some help, or I need to change how I experience this particular thing. These are the kinds of things that regret versus guilt will afford you a much more positive interaction with the event or the experience. And I have to say that I call people who are sort of guilt addicts, who experience guilt sort of willy-nilly, just guilt is part of the culture, guilt is part of the family culture. I call it like a zombie experience, because it's such pain that happens with guilt. It's quite a painful thing that happens with guilt, wouldn't you agree? That a person is just totally sort of like zombified and will do anything to stop the guilt. And usually they'll do things like, self-betray and give more than they want to give, or say yes when they want to say no, or will experience a tremendous amount of bending over backwards and going beyond their limitations in order to stop the guilt. And I feel like all good lessening is gone when you engage in guilt versus regret. So this is like a short little video about these concepts, but try and really understand that there is a choice in the matter. There is a choice in the matter. And the choice is, when something is happening, can I, and here's a few people coming on here maybe, can I encounter myself or the situation or the event in a more constructive way? To repeat, guilt brings on shame. Guilt brings on paralysis. Guilt brings on what I would call a negative death spiral of thinking. Down the rabbit hole you go. No options. Just do anything to kill the guilt. Doesn't work. You don't learn anything. You just don't learn anything. But regret, on the other side, has an opportunity where you go, what did I learn here? What's the lesson in this? Where can I improve? Where can I, who can I ask for help about this? Write it in the journal. It's a different kind of a vibe. It's a different kind of an experience with life and with yourself. And so I really encourage you to really look at what is the relationship you have in terms of your autopilot thinking when you feel you've done something wrong. I feel that regret is learning from the darkness, whereas guilt is letting the darkness crush you. I feel that regret has opportunity for. I like that, Raisa. What would you do differently next time? Yeah, that's the regret piece. Guilt is, I'm never going to even show my face again. Total shame. So there's a real opportunity in any given moment when you are experiencing something dark, something difficult, something you wish you hadn't done, something you wish hadn't occurred, and you have a choice in how you think about things. And that, to me, I believe guilt is sort of the road to depression, the road to anxiety, the road to not feeling at peace with anything. It's just this rabbit hole. It's this death spiral of your thinking. And I believe it also brings on your the part of your brain, the limbic system, that's fight, flight, fight, flight, fight, flight, fight, flight. And what did I do different? It's just no choice in the matter. Just total zombified. What can I do to stop this? Some people do drugs. Some people drink alcohol. Some people, will, as I said, do all these things to kill the guilt. Whereas, again, sitting quietly and doing some introspection and going into regret thinking, it's, what Raisa said, what can I do differently? Who can I ask for help on this? What's the lesson in this? What's the bigger picture? It's called transcendence thinking. So transcending the event and being able to engage the prefrontal cortex part of your brain, which brings on some real logical thinking, some possibly grieving, but then logic, and then transformation. And again, you got to own it, you got to name it, and then you got to claim it, and then you will transform it. But if you hide from it in shame and guilt, you're never going to be able to transform it. This is such a positive, transformational tip for you to cope with difficult things. And if anyone has any other questions, I'm going to keep this brief, but I'm going to be doing these videos hopefully daily. that's the goal in this time frame, somewhere between 9 and 10, that kind of thing. So stay tuned and hang out with me in the morning a little bit, and just remember, you have a choice. Don't be at the mercy. Don't be the hostage to guilt. Don't just allow guilt to take you down. Transform it into regret, which has more of an opportunity for new kind of thinking. I was speaking to someone the other day who, had done some not terrible things, but had not spoken in a way that they had wanted to speak to someone, and they were having a bad day or whatever it may be, and they just hadn't learned that they can say no, or they can, say, hey, I need some space because I'm just not feeling well, or I need to not, engage with you right now. And instead of doing that, they just became really kind of, bitchy and kind of like, not nice ways of dealing. And so later on, she was telling me how guilty she felt. And so what she then decided she would do is just totally, hide. Just hide and never go to that place again. And I thought, oh my God, what a lost opportunity. So we worked it out. And the interesting thing is that when she started to look at her regret, oh, I regret. So she started to understand, oh, I should have said no. Oh, I should have taken space. Oh, I should have drawn a boundary. Oh, I should have. Her brain left the limbic system, fight, flight, freeze, and went into logical thinking about the opportunities that she could change what she was doing in that moment. So the next time she encounters a bad mood, a feeling overwhelmed, she'll instead remember, oh, I don't want to feel that guilt. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to speak up. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that doesn't work for me right now. And then she will maintain her fair, kind, and loving demeanor, which she normally is, as opposed to kind of being snarky, which she did at that time. So I think that at any given moment, you have an opportunity to transform kind of a very autopilot family culture way of thinking about something, guilt, and transform it into regret, and then go down the journey of opportunity for change, opportunity for growth, opportunity for doing something different, because you're not as panicked and you're not as in shame mode about it. I hope that helps. All right. I'm going to sign off now, and it's a pretty nice day in Toronto, so stay in touch. I like the engagement, and we will do more of this. Adios.